A very good afternoon I bid to everyone. I'm Rachel and I'm the MC for today. It's a pleasure to welcome you all to the Carbon Neutrality Webinar, the role of university towards carbon neutrality acceleration, co-organized by the Institute for Advanced Study and GQH 0055, which is the Healthy Planet, Healthy Life. We appreciate you taking your time off your busy schedules to join us today. We hope you will find the workshop today to be fruitful and engaging. Ladies and gentlemen, in recent years, our planet has witnessed unprecedented changes in climate patterns, signaling an urgent call to action. The consequences of climate change are no longer distant projections, but are unfolding before our very eyes. It is within this critical context that the role of universities becomes paramount. As we embark on this journey today, we must first acknowledge the gravity of the situation. The challenges posed by climate change are multifaceted and interconnected, demanding a comprehensive and collaborative response. Universities, as hub of knowledge, innovation, and influence, bear a unique responsibility to lead the way towards a sustainable and carbon neutral future. Our gathering today is not just a webinar. It is a testament to the commitment we share, which is a commitment to transforming our institution of higher learning into beacons of sustainability, resilience, and environmental stewardship. Universities are not just places of academic pursuits, they are also crucibles where the next generation of leaders, thinkers, and change makers is molded. The impacts of our collective efforts within this institution resonates far beyond campus boundaries. In the next hour, we will hear from our expert who is driving sustainability initiatives within our university. We will explore best practices, learn from successful case studies, and discuss the challenges that lies ahead. I urge each one of you actively participate, share insights, and be inspired by the transformative potential that lies within the realm of higher education. Together, let us chart a course towards a carbon neutral future, recognizing that the impact we make today will echo through the corridors of time, shaping the destiny of generations to come. Ladies and gentlemen, our workshop today will be conducted by Dr. Fong Chng Saun. Dr. Fong is currently a senior lecturer in the Institute of Advanced Studies, Universiti Malaya. He obtained the bachelor's degree in environmental science and technology from Universiti Putra Malaysia in 2016. With his excellent academic achievements, he was offered to pursue his doctoral studies degree at Universiti Malaya. He obtained his PhD in environmental science in the year of 2021. Dr. Fong's core expertise is in environmental science and technology and has centered his research interests in tropical urban heat islands, sustainable development, and other atmospheric-related research such as air pollution monitoring and health impacts. He also involved in organizing social engagement events. Apart from the exposure gained through the projects, he is also given the opportunity to extend his networking among various governmental bodies, private sectors, NGO, and researchers from both local and international universities. So without further ado, I welcome Dr. Fong Chng Saun to deliver his talk.
Okay. Thank you. First of all, thank you, Rachel, for that kind introduction. So nice to see some of you familiar faces. So I will go straight into the talk today. I was told that I'm given about 30 to 40 minutes. So the title that was given to me is the role of university towards carbon neutrality acceleration. So like what Rachel has mentioned, so the problems that we are facing currently, especially in terms of planetary health, is unprecedented. and it's very important and in a way urgent that we need to take immediate actions so that we can have a better tomorrow. Okay, so I'll start sharing my slides. Okay, so again, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for the invitation to share what is the role of University towards carbon neutrality acceleration. So in specific, today I'm going to talk about what we, Universiti Malaya, is doing as a whole towards achieving this carbon neutrality acceleration. But perhaps before I go into the specific about what we are as a university is doing towards contributing to it, towards addressing issues that is deteriorating the planetary health. So perhaps it's good for me to first introduce what is planetary health. So perhaps to some of you that are from my class, you most probably already have memorized what planetary health definition is. But for those that are joining us for the first time, so this would be sort of an exposure to you, an introduction to planetary health. And then slowly I will zoom into to explain to you why do we have to look at planetary health from an ecosystem perspective. So we talk about the interactive global environment system, where how one thing is intricate link to another thing. And then zooming deeper into the role of university. In this case, we are talking about Universiti Malaya in specific. And then I'm going to zoom in a little bit much more deeper into what individuals can contribute towards carbon neutrality. So this is more like a roller coaster, right? I will show you from the very beginning what is planetary health on a very big perspective, and then we'll slowly we zoom into individuals, right? From a planet's perspective into individual perspective. So first thing first. So let's get this very lengthy definition out of the way. So this is a very lengthy, multi definition, and it's by the Planetary Health Alliance. So so for me, what I would usually do is that I will explain this definition in three parts. So the first one is planetary health is a solutions oriented, meaning that the solutions, because all this while, be it researchers, be it scientists, or even consultants, policymakers um, for international panel, for governments, or even for state level or an organization levels, they are very good in prescribing problems. They can in a very complex, sophisticated way to explain a problem, but more often than not, they are not able to give a very good solution towards an identified problem. So taking this planetary health approach, we acknowledge that it's much more important to look into the solutions rather than identifying the problem. So so for us to address planetary health, it's no longer that approach that, okay, this is a problem that we need to fix. But instead of stopping at that, it should go beyond into understanding how this problem should be fixed and what sort of solutions that we have at the current moment. So that is what it meant by solutions oriented. So secondly, it is transdisciplinary field, because it's very important in a way that when we talk about an issue currently, so later on I will have some slides to show you the interconnectedness of the problems that we are facing and how complex it is. So on this end, it's impossible if you want to depend only on one approach, a single discipline to solve this issue. It has to be multi or transdisciplinary approach in tackling the complex issues that we are facing nowadays. And social movement is a key integral part of planetary health approach, because more often than not, the people that are affected are often those that are left out in the roundtable discussions. The laymen, the aunties, the uncles, the elderly, the children that are the sensitive and vulnerable groups are often left out in making decisions, big decisions actually. So On this end, it is also very important to emphasize the need that all these issues, the solutions that are proposed, it has to be transdisciplinary, but at the same time, it also must include people of all walks. So then you could come up with a very holistic solutions towards addressing planetary health. So the second part of this definition would be where is the focus? So it's on analyzing to understand and also to address, to identify how the impact of human disruptions to Earth natural system. So we have to acknowledge to this point that like the problems that Rachel is mentioning, all can be attributed back towards the human's interruption on the normal day-to-day progress of the Earth well-being. So later on, I'll also have some slides to show you um, to pinpoint and also provide evidence that whatever that we are facing currently can be traced back to humans' anthropogenic activities. And finally, when we talk about planetary health, we also must focus on human health and all life on Earth. So this is an encompassing concept where we talk about the health of a planet. And if the planet is able to live happily or healthily, then all life on Earth would be able to flourish in the same manner. So this is also why when I propose this GQH 0055 Student Holistic Empowerment Program or course, the idea is to have to name it as such that you would have healthy planet, then you would have healthy life, not the other way around where you have healthy life, then you have healthy planet, right? So the planet comes first because it's the one that is sustaining all life on Earth at the current being. And if it is not in a well manner, then forget about sustaining life on Earth, right? So this is, although it's a very long, lengthy definition, but it's a very clear-cut definition to explain what planetary health is about. Okay, so I hope I'm clear there. So this is some of the images just to hopefully to give you some sense of relativity. So these are some of the things that we are actually focusing or addressing at the moment. So you can hear about problems with water scarcity. You can hear that urbanization is happening at a very alarming rate because it has to address the spike in the human population. So from that end, you can also see that there are changing land use and land cover to make ways for high-rise building, for to build highways and etc., so that humans can live. So at what cost? So you can see that there are biodiversity shift, extinction to a certain species that we have in the natural setting. We can also see that there's much more pollution of all forms, be it water pollution, be it air pollution, or other type of solid waste pollution. So those are also indicators or toxics that that is affecting the health and well-being of a planet. So very similar because we are talking about a living system. So like when humans is introduced to certain toxics or certain foreign substances in our human body, we would have natural reactions. We would have ways or mechanism that we will behave in a way, we will fall sick, right? So for a planet's ecosystem, it's very similar in the sense that when there is a spike in unwanted or foreign substances, then it will trigger a series of unprecedented problems, right? We can see, for example, water pollution. So when there is untreated water, it will cause the biodiversity, the marine especially. It's either they are able to adapt, or if they are not able to adapt, they will go extinct. So if they are able to adapt, perhaps they are also in one way or another, they are also different from the original species because mutation might have occurred and the bioaccumulation of toxic materials or heavy metals could also ended up in this fishes, for example, and then it's how all this toxic is actually circulated within this food chain, right? So that's the complexity that we're actually talking about. one problem leading to another, right? And it's not going to get any better. It's only going to get worse. So these are some of the statistics to show you what is actually happening around the world. So since 1950, human population has increased about 200%. So with that increase in human population, you can also see that the fossil fuel consumption has increased by 550%, marine fish capture by over 350%. So what actually happened in that 1950 that suddenly it causes that huge of a spike? So it was then the Industrial Revolution happened. So during that point in the time, the steam engine was invented, and that expedited everything in terms of the production, in terms of expedition to open up more lands for various purposes. That's also the start of the tipping point where the Earth every year gets warmer. So in 2016, Earth recorded the warmest year on record, and 2018 was the warmest for ocean. So that's also a very harshful truth to know that. So for example, if humans it's getting warmer, humans can adapt. We can depend on air conditioning to ensure that the thermal comfort is there. But for fishes, for marine lives, if the ocean is getting hotter and hotter, they are boiling. Basically, they are boiling inside the ocean. So where can they go, right? It's very dangerous in that end. So one thing that is also very alarming is not only those that are fishes in a sense. The ocean warming is also threatening the coral species, and the coral species is very important because they are home to about 40% of marine ecosystem or marine life in sea. So with their habitats being destroyed, you can also foresee that there will be a huge drastic impact towards the whole marine ecosystem. So let's move on to the great acceleration. So this is the point where I'm able to show you some evidence to pinpoint since the Industrial Revolution happened and what are the consequences, right? So on one end, we are also benefiting from the advancement in technology, the advancement in lifestyle. We can currently, with proper medicine, we can live longer. We can prevent much more outbreak of diseases, for example, that takes away a lot of life. But at what cost, right? So there will always be a cost, a hidden cost. Maybe it's not visible. There will always be a cost behind it. So let's look into those. So this is something that that have been projected as early as in 2010, about 10 years ago. So they foresee that if we produce or we consume as we are currently, or as we say, business as usual, by 2050 we will need the resource of 2 planets to ensure that all life on Earth could be sustained. But we don't really have another planet for expenditure, right? So so where are we heading, right? So this is a question that I'm throwing back to all of you today. So to think about, okay, it's 2024 now, right? It's almost halfway to 2030. Where are we? There's about 25 years to go. Where are we currently in terms of resource management? Are we on a sustainable track, or we are still on a very consumerism attitude or behavior, in a way that we just use whatever that we have without really thinking about the long-term consequences? So where are we currently? I'm throwing this question to all of you to think about. So this is a further elaboration of what are the current global environmental crises that we are addressing now. So we have problems with renewable resource depletion. We also have problems with global environmental change. We can see that climate change is becoming much more violent in a way. It's much more unpredictable nowadays. And you can also, if you are living in Kuala Lumpur, for example, you can nowadays relate to how unpredictable it is, especially when it comes to late afternoon. Suddenly, it will rain very heavily for about 10 to 20 minutes, and then the next moment, it's sunshine again, or it's the sky is clear. So, but within that 10 or 20 minutes, it has contributed to problems like flash floods in general. So that's quite alarming in one, and it's very relatable because it's really happening to places that we are currently living here. So these are some of the other types of crises that we are currently facing. So I'm not going to go too deep into this. So this is a figure to put figures on the things that I've mentioned in the previous slide. So these are some of the most pressing issues that we are facing in the 21st century. So in terms of food security, so it might struck you, being silly that Malaysia as a country that is very, in terms of land use, we have a lot of agricultural land, but we are still depending for certain food types. We are still depending on food import to support the food security in our current country. So that's also an indicator to show you that despite knowing that we have abundance of agricultural land, we are not doing that well on that food security, and because this has been proven since COVID pandemic, the total shutdown of countries and also the movement restriction order that was imposed. That was the first time we see that there are food security problems, not only in a country, but regionally and also globally. We have problems with that. Another example would actually be during the Ukraine-Russia war. That's also another key event that again proved that we don't really have a very good food security in this sense, because we talk about the whole food production chain and also the logistic and on that part. So food security is also a part of something that Malaysian country is facing at the problem. So I believe you can also relate to biodiversity loss. So I don't know about you, but at my lifetime, we have listened to news about losing rhinoceros, tigers. So these are not something that perhaps you would not really be able to relate at the current moment. But when you go to some zoos or museums, then you will start to appreciate that this life or these animals that once walked freely on Earth is no longer on Earth. So that end, so perhaps some of you might not be able to relate because okay, it's just an animal, but there are certain cases, not only for animals but also for plants. Certain plants, they do have a very high value medicinal value, right? So to treat, in fact, some are able to treat cancers, etc. So with that sort of species being lost forever, so you can think about the consequences towards the contribution to its health, the contribution towards identifying much more effective drugs and etc. will also go down the drain with the extinction of this species. So these are this. I'm not going to go through everything, but basically you get the idea here. What are we facing currently? And it's not going to get any better soon, because we have seen predictions, and these predictions are very high likely to happen because, for example, the glacier retreat is indicating a rise in seawater level. So that would also have long-term consequences, especially because when there is a sea level rise, those that are mostly affected are those living around the coastal area. So they will be forced to migrate. So if they have the capacity to migrate, perhaps not much of issue. But if we are looking at countries like Bangladesh, which are very near to the coastal area, so if they are required to migrate in a very large volume, where are they going to go? And we also need to consider that they do, perhaps a big majority of them would not have the capacity to migrate freely, right? So we could actually look at large scale of migration, be it legal or illegal migration to other parts of the world, which they would be safe from the risk of seawater rise. So on that end, that will also trigger another problem, which is the social part of handling these refugees. So when we say refugees, it's no longer war refugees; it's also refugees from the environmental problem that we are facing currently. So that gives you another idea to show you that the environmental issues that we are facing not only have environmental consequences, but it also does have social consequences as well. So these are some of the other things that we are facing currently, especially after the COVID pandemic. We can see huge amount of mass are actually being it ended up in the ocean. So it's not easy to treat this as well because it consists of various components. So you can also see that other type of solid waste that you can see here. So air pollution, water scarcity issues, again, plastic pollution and warfare. So all of these are current issues that are very relatable to the things on our daily life. They would have direct consequences. Deforestation, the dead zones of near the coastal areas, right? So I'm going to show you some scientific findings from reports to justify or to provide you the evidence where what are we facing now can be attributed back to humans and intervention. So you can see in 1950, I've shown this a lot to my students. So in 1950, this is the part where the Industrial Revolution happened. And you can see all the indicators here from average surface temperature in the Northern Hemisphere, population, CO2 concentration, water use, paper consumption, everything spiked at least or near to double by year 2000. So perhaps it's a little bit difficult to look at this from this graph here. So let's take a look at this graph here. So this is from 2015. So this is the great acceleration that we are talking about. So if you look at these two, so the way that you are interpreting this graph is there are two parts to it. You have the socio-economic trends and you have the Earth system trends. So first off, I would like to have your attention to this world population graph here. So in 1950, this is the part where the Industrial Revolution took place. You can see there is a sudden spike in human population. So so on that end, what really happens or what is the direct consequence of this increase in world population? So you have human population as rise in urban population. So definitely it will also lead towards a spike in urban population because where else would people live, right? So they will need to live in urbanized area. So on that end, there will also be an increase in real GDP, primary energy use, fertilizer consumption to make sure that the increased population, you have enough food for them. Water use increases as well. So all these are related to the GDP of a country, economic indicators. But at the same time, look at the Earth system. What is actually happening? So yes, we are progressing very well in terms of real GDP, in terms of accessibility to water, accessibility to food, telecommunications, transportation. We are doing very well, right? So we benefit from that end. But at what cost? So if you look at the Earth system trends here, the concentration of CO2 nearly doubled following the trend in world population. And this is not only the only indicator to show you that what is happening on the Earth. And so you can see also the increase in the nitrous oxide, the methane, surface temperature, ocean acidification, and etc. So all this, if you put it on top of this world population and you do a correlation study, you can almost be certain that all these changes is attributed to the increase in world population. So whoever that claims that the change that we are facing on the Earth system is not related to human induced activities, then this evidence is showing otherwise. So like many things in our daily life, we will have a limit. So for example, human beings, there is a limit of, for example, height you can actually grow. So very similar to when we talk about planetary development or the things that when we talk about planets and an ecosystem which can help to facilitate development. So there will be a limit towards what we coin it as safe space for development. And beyond that safe space for development, we will cross into the region of high risk. And also, it's also categorized according to whether it's the risk is uncertain, or more or less we are able to know what would be the consequences. So this is a study done by Rockstrom and his colleague in 2015, updated in 2015, and only very recently, the 2023 one was actually, the report for 2023 was released. So what I would like to highlight here is that there are a total of 9 boundaries, or we call it as planetary playing field for humanity. So these are the areas that we actually are able to categorize them in a way that we are able to develop according to this area. So in 2015, 3 of these are actually beyond the zone of uncertainty with high risk. And in the very recent 2023 report, 6 out of the 9 categories have been trespassed. So this gave an indicator, again, like what the MC mentioned at the very beginning, the importance and also the significance of the things that we are going to address from this point onwards. So another scientific report that I would like to share with all of you, this is from World Economic Forum. So this is the Global Risk Report since 2017. So this is a graph. Don't be intimidated. I'll tell you how to interpret this. So you have the x-axis and the y-axis here. So the x-axis is the likelihood of something to happen, and in terms of y-axis, it's the impact when something happens, right? So the likelihood of it happening, and also when it happens, what would be the impact? So it's categorized according to 5 categories. So you have the blue representing economic, green representing environmental related events, orange geopolitical, red is societal, and purple is technological. So on the right side of this graph here, you can see that they identify what would be the top 10 risks in terms of likelihood happening, and extreme weather events is at the very top of it. And you also have natural disasters following quite closely, besides large-scale involuntary migration. So in one way or another, you can also predict that they are all interlinked together. So in terms of top 10 risks, in terms of impact when it happens, number 1 would be the term weapons of mass destruction. So this would be, for example, the nuclear war or bio war, for example, right? So other than weapons of mass destruction, extreme weather events, water crisis, natural disasters, and failure of climate change mitigation and adaptation are also foreseen to have very high impact when it happens. So among these top 5 here, you can see 3 of them are actually environmentally related. So this is in 2017, okay? So this is another interconnection map that I would like to show you the complexity of something. So for example, taking extreme weather events, for example, when it happens, it could also lead towards natural disasters. It would lead towards biodiversity loss and ecosystem collapse. It can facilitate food crisis. It can also create spread of infectious disease, for example, water crisis, and etc. So this is only one singular event having multiple facade impact on the resulting other type of events as well. So large-scale involuntary migration, I'm giving you another example. So you will also lead towards failure of regional or global governance, failure of national governance, profound social instability, unemployment or underemployment, interstate conflict, state collapse or crisis, terrorist attacks, and etc. So this is only from one singular event. And if you remember, when I say that there are extreme weather events, for example, the melting of the glacier cap, leading towards the increase in seawater level, that alone would also trigger large-scale involuntary migration that would have other type of social impacts and also technological impacts. For example, technological advanced consequence of technological advances, cyber attacks, affecting the security of human beings. So this is in 2017. So the next, I'm going to just keep through quite quickly to show you what are the trends across since 2017. So in 2018, you can see that out of the 5 types of risks that are foreseen to happen, 3 of them are natural, are environmental related. In terms of impact, similarly, 3 are of the top 5 are environmentally related. So very similar interconnection maps in 2018. So in 2019, there is a shift. You can see that in 2019, top 3 of the likelihood happening is environmentally related. So you can also see more or less the same pattern here in terms of impact. In 2020, it's evident the top 5 of likelihood things to happen would actually be environmentally related. And of this, the risks that are coming from the likelihood of all those environmental events would be climate action failure, weapons of mass destruction, biodiversity loss, extreme weather, and water crisis. So in one way, water crisis is also environmentally related, but with societal consequences. Okay, to show you the interconnection again. So by showing you that, I hope you are able to appreciate the complexity that the things that we are experiencing is it's very complex and sophisticated in a way. So when we tie it back to the planet ecosystem as a whole, because when we talk about planet, it's really something that is projected as shown here in this figure here. Perhaps you have already seen this before in your primary or secondary school of how the Earth system or the chemical processes that allows the regulation, the cycle of all these nutrients, chemical components, and etc. from water to air to land, again fulfilling this whole cycle. So whatever that is actually happening on one end of the Earth would also be influencing the part at the other part of the Earth or other part of the planet. So this is how the water-air-land interactions happen, and combining the idea of this water-air-land interactions and also the complexity of the problems that I've shown you earlier through this World Economic Forum, then it really again highlights when we are talking about the planetary health approach, it really needs to be focused on solutions. It has to be transdisciplinary, and it also has to be involving social movements as well. So the importance of these 3 components in addressing planetary health approach. So this is to further elaborate on some of the causes of pollution. So you can see it happens because most of the time there is irrational use of natural resources. So natural resources, as most of you have already know, there are the renewable type and they are also the non-renewable type. So for those renewable type, you also need, although they are renewable, you need to give them time so that they can replenish over time. And for those non-renewable, you know the case lah. So it's basically you are not able to depend on it too long for development. So when you have irrational use of these resources, meaning that you use beyond the ability of these natural resources to replenish itself, then it will lead towards pollution. That would also be an indicator that we are not developing sustainably. So we also talk about the emission, the discharge, the effluent coming out from various activities that are related to humans. So the contributing factors here are urbanization, population growth, modern lifestyle in terms of habits, attitudes, and consumerism that shapes how we use natural resources. Industrialization and transport system, which also have a lot of consequence on the emission, the discharge, and effluents. So I'm giving you an example here. So these are some of the environmental impact of urbanization. So we talk about how human population increases and it will contribute towards various environmental pollution. So for example, if let's say you have an increase in population in terms of numbers, density, so the atmospheric component would have increasing release of carbon dioxide because the consumption increases. So you can also relate it back to the amount of emissions that are released from anthropogenic activities. And in terms of hydrosphere, greater demand on water resources, both surface and subsurface, that would also lead towards problems with water governance. Lithosphere is the one that involve soil and human impacts as well. So for each urban component or each activities that are related to urbanization, they will also have their resulting environmental impact. So this also again shows you the complexity of the problems that we are trying to address here. So other side effects of urban sprawl. So those are the direct impact, and these are the other indirect impact. So the alteration of land to make ways for high-rise building would come in the cost of loss of agricultural land. So land that was previously used to farm foods for human beings are slash and burn in a way to make way for higher economic value development. For example, the development of commercial lots, business central district for residential, and etc. So in that end, you also would have the problem of loss and fragmentation of wildlife habitat, loss of biodiversity, and roadkill of numerous animals. So this is something that we are facing currently. In fact, in Kuala Lumpur, I'm not sure how frequent that you have experienced this. Roadkill nowadays does not only involve cats and dogs in Kuala Lumpur. I have witnessed a few times that the animals that are killed in the roadkill include snakes, very long ones. Also, there's monitor lizard, monkeys. So it's not surprising anymore, and it's also evident that the urbanization that happened causes the loss of wildlife habitat, and they wandered into this concrete jungle, trying to find, to continue their livelihood, right? So that's something that it's evident at the current being. So you can also see more energy consumption because of the increase in population, because of how urban heat island is formed, where you have hard surface material trapping heat and causing it to be much more hotter as usual. So you need to depend on a lot of energy consumption to run this heating, ventilation, air conditioning systems. So that would also contribute to higher energy consumption and increased air pollution. So hard surfacing would also upset the water cycle. You increase runoff, causing flash floods. You decrease infiltration, causing the depletion of water resources. It's not able to replenish in a very short time. So these are some of the examples of the side effect of urbanization. Running a little bit out of time. Okay, so this is the population growth map to show you that by 2050, we would be expecting about 8 billion people living, about 8 to 9 billion people living. And it is also projected that in 2050, 70% of this human population will live in urbanized areas. So that's a figure for you to think about how much more urbanization that we are going to foresee in the next couple of years, in the next 20 plus years. 2050 is not that far away. Okay, so coming back to the topic on what is the role of university towards carbon neutrality acceleration. So the problems that I'm talking about now, the number one threat that we are facing in terms of the planet's health is global warming. And it's also because global warming is tied to climate change, and everything is in a way interlinked with one another. So how does the role of university, you might be thinking, like UM is not that big, it's just one institution. How is it able for us to influence the states, the national level, or the regional level, or more optimistically the whole global towards carbon neutrality acceleration? So this is something that I would like to share with you today. So perhaps at the very beginning, I would like to introduce you to UMSDC. So UMSDC is abbreviation for Sustainability and Development Center. So this is the center that is mainly focused or mainly responsible for the to transform into a model city campus that advances green, carbon neutral, and sustainable lifestyle and innovation. So we are doing this through three approaches. So one is through embracing research and innovation. So we are still a research university. So at the very core of it, we still need to do research and innovation, and that would help to support action-oriented research and innovation towards achieving what we have in mind, what we have ambition. So on that second end, it's also to enhance the enculturation of sustainable green and carbon neutral lifestyle. So this is also something we look into in terms of sustainability, because we believe that by enculturating these sustainable lifestyle, so to not only to students but throughout everyone in the campus, we are able to create a positive reaction for those. For example, for students now, you might leave, you might grad one day, and then you might be going to other places. So how do you carry along this culture of sustainable lifestyle into your organizations, into your family, or beyond, right? How do you carry that? And finally, UMSDC is also championing sustainability agenda campus-wide, based on the main pillars of the, we have this sustainability policy in 2022, Eco Campus Blueprint in 2016, and the 2050 carbon neutral net zero targets. So this is currently in the pipeline. So we are trying to do this. So these are the three, the two documents that I mentioned earlier. So if you are interested to know more about what we have done in terms of Eco Campus, so you can scan this QR code to download this Eco Campus Blueprint. We also have this sustainability policy from 2021 to 2030. So you can scan the QR code here as well. So besides, so the blueprint here is actually addressing the UI green metrics, world university ranking in terms of the sustainable campus that we have. So there is a ranking to that, and how are we performing? So under this THE impact rankings, they also look into the sustainability part of the operation of the university. So you can take a look at this sustainability policy to see what are some of the best practices that have been put in place for UM. So another key reference material here is the Carbon Neutral 2030. So this is a net zero on campus guideline for universities and colleges. So this is also something that we are basing this carbon neutrality initiative based on this document here. So how, you might ask? So I provided you more or less a hint about how we as an internal organizations within is facilitating sustainability within the campus, and we implement this outside of to the external community. So to show you, to give you some better visualization, so is a very unique institute in a way that it's really situated at the heart of Kuala Lumpur. If you are a medic student, you will be able to realize that the shape of this campus here resembles exactly like a heart, a human's heart, right? So at the left part here is the capital city of KL, and the one at your right is the Petaling Jaya Selangor area. So we are really at the center of an urbanized area. So what we do here in is that we carry out a lot of living labs. We coin them as living lab, but basically they are some activities that are led by volunteers at the very beginning, since, like, for example, zero waste started since 2010. And all this have been done, and the reason why they have been very successful is because they tackle key pressing issues of urban development. And throughout the years, you can see from the amount of fundings and also the partnerships involving. So you can see how we are able, as a Universiti Malaya alone, how are we extending the influence that we have outside of So from the zero waste campaign, we have worked with Along Flora, with banks, with waterways, we have worked with Majelis Bandaraya, City Council, Air Selangor. For the Rimba project, we have worked with the Habitat Foundation, we have worked with WWF, and etc. For safe disposal of unused medicine, we have worked with Caring Pharmacy, and etc. So all this are evidence to show you that how, despite so small in terms of our size, location Universiti Malaya is able to extend our influence towards the surrounding environment. So this again emphasizes the three approaches that we have through enculturation, through research and innovation and stewardship, in influencing the external stakeholders. I'm running a little bit out of time, so I'll just skip through this. But basically, the project that I'm leading currently is under this carbon neutral acceleration. So how do we, through this living lab, address broader urban sustainability issues in Klang Valley? So this is what we are trying to do now. So if you're interested to look more into the documents, you can go to this Net Zero on Campus to explain what is carbon neutral. So carbon neutral, in the end, what it means that we have talked about how global warming is happening. So it's all related to the emissions that are being emitted from all sorts of activities. So now we have an imbalance because we have more going out than the emissions coming in. I mean, we sink it in a way that we trap it. So how do we achieve this balance? So this is the idea of carbon neutrality here. And carbon neutrality acceleration is to understand what we have currently, what are we emitting, and how much are we absorbing at the current rate. So if we are able to have this balance, then we can achieve carbon neutrality. So this is something, perhaps I will end it here. We don't really, I mean, it's not only just by talk that we want to do carbon neutrality. It's already embedded within this UN Master Plan, Campus Planning Blueprint for 2050. So by 2050, we have envisioned that UN will be transformed into a smart campus, focusing on these 8 key trust areas. So these 8 key trust areas will also help to contribute towards achieving net zero within campus by 2050. So this is where we are heading currently. Yeah. So perhaps we are currently in the first 3 stage. Later on, through living lab projects, we are going to strategize and we will move forward from this end to see how far are we from the net zero initiative proposal. Right. So I'll skip this carbon footprint part. If we have time, I will share this link for you to do. If you have not done your carbon footprint yet, so you can. I'll share this in a chat box later. You can be able to try it and identify as an individual how much are you contributing towards the emissions. And yeah, I'll leave this part. So thank you. I'll pass it back to the MC. Rachel? Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Fong, for the very insightful and informative session. I hope the audience today gained a lot of new knowledge and found today's workshop to be very beneficial. I would like to say thank you again to everyone for coming to our workshop today. Before we end this workshop, we are going to have a photography session. So everyone, please feel free to open your camera so that we can take a photo.
One, you are ready? 1, 2, 3. Okay, another one. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. I see Afan is here in the joining us. So Afan is one of the core member of UMSDC. So if you're interested to follow some of the UMSDC, where you can catch up Afan, I think.
All right, thank you, Dr. Fong.
Thank you for joining.
Yeah.
I also understand that I've taken up most of the time, and I see some questions. You might have some questions, so you are also free to drop me questions through email so that I can get back to you later on. Right. So thank you so much for attending this webinar. I'm going to drop my email here in the chat box. So if you have questions, you can just send them over to me. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. So is that all for this webinar?
Yes, that's all. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, Afan also shared the link to the Facebook. Okay, all right. Thank you, everyone.